Well, a very good evening to you. Thanks for clicking on to today's long-range discussion. I apologise for no video yesterday between having to go to bed at 7 o'clock last night, and to be honest with you, I wasn't really in the right frame of mind. I've been a wee bit, you'll have noticed I've been a bit disheartened recently, and I think, I'm frustrated. I think I am frustrated because like I continue to preach to you, I think it's important to look at the models and the various trends that are going on, understanding the current pattern, what we've seen, and of course that can sometimes and I try to anyway determine the future weather on that basis. But certainly we've got a lot of interesting things taking place at the moment. And of course, I've been accused of delaying the cold all the time. Just to make a couple of points clear to you. First and foremost, the first part of the winter was incorrect. I had forecasted from about December 15th through Christmas would be snow and cold. And the reason for that was I basically forecasted a blocking pattern to take place, the Arctic Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation going negative, and therefore I was basically completely out with that. Now, as for this month, what I had forecasted back on Christmas Day was a change in the pattern, the overall hemisphere-wide pattern to change and turn more colder, and that would progress into the latter part of January and in towards February. Now, I did highlight on Christmas Day that I believed that the chances were, given what we were seeing, that I believed the change would take place with the Arctic Oscillation. That is the crucial key for cold across the Northern Hemisphere at the mid-latitude level. For us here in the UK, Western Europe, and as well as that across eastern parts of North America, your key and our key is the North Atlantic Oscillation change, and that's of course a measure of pressure at sea level between Iceland and the Azores. And of course, for so much of this winter, it's been very strongly positive. But there is signs there. There's also evidence there as well now that North Atlantic Oscillation is starting to go towards the negative phase. But what is more important for me at the moment is the Arctic Oscillation. That, of course, is the biggest driver in releasing that cold air down to the mid-latitudes across the hemisphere. And we have been seeing that. The evidence is here. And I'm going to show you first and foremost the current temperatures over the United States. This is off the weatherchannel.com, and look at how cold the temperatures are here. This is the coldest air of the season so far, without a shadow of a doubt, and I'm pretty excited actually about just how cold. I've always been fascinated, and to be honest with you, my primary interest in my weather has always been the United States and the extremes that the United States experience. Of course, yesterday we've seen tornadoes devastate parts of the Ohio Valley and the Mid-South. Quite remarkable to see tornadoes one day and then this type of temperature profile the next day. So this is in Fahrenheit, remember folks. And look at the temperature up at Cutbank, Montana. Minus 28, minus 20 in Glasgow, Minot, Bismarck, all sub-zero temperatures for this morning. So what's my point here? My point being is that we're seeing the release of brutally cold Arctic air down into the mid-latitudes. We have seen, of course, recent days, record snowfall across northern Japan. So the reality of that change is clear to be seen across many parts of the world. We've seen, of course, minus 24 in Greece, record temperatures, snowfall, even in, I believe, Spain. There was certainly an article there for Spain having received snowfall. Canada, we've seen temperatures in the Celsius, minus 30 to minus 40 this morning. Brutally cold, the coldest of the season, and of course that is a very, very stark contrast and difference compared to this time last week across the continent. So, what is my point here? My point being is that we are seeing the North Atlantic Oscillation. You can clearly see this is off Dr. Rand Murray's site, polyclimate.com. You can see here the trend all above, remarkably, all above the neutral line. This is the North Atlantic Oscillation. Look at how it spikes right around Christmas and Boxing Day, and then it sharply drops, but it remains above that zero line, folks. You notice that. But here, as you can see, for around the 16th through, I'm saying the 16th. It's right around the 18th of January. You notice this here. This is this is actually the Canadian for the predicting the North Atlantic Oscillation. It shows it going negative, and here it's the NCEP GFS for the Arctic Oscillation. You notice the tanking here of the Arctic Oscillation for the latter part of January. Now, of course, if you can get these two indices both going negative, folks, and that is the key for us here in the UK, Ireland, Western Europe. Got viewers in Denmark, Holland asking me, where's the snow? Well, if this holds true, folks, then we are going to be seeing the latter part of December, or should I say January. I'm starting to get confused here with my months. If we can see this starting to take hold, folks, this is a good sign for us down the road. And it looks, I'll be honest with you, folks, you know, for the past 10 days I've been drumming home about you know, plenty of cold and snow for this weekend. I also spoke to a few friends that are meteorologists, professionals in long range forecasts, and we're also reasonably confident in saying that the winter would arrive here in the UK and Ireland. And I'm not blaming anybody, I'm blaming myself here as well. The models have basically turned around on this weekend. Next weekend looks interesting, but I'm thinking latter part of next weekend, you know, we've got weatherschool.com as well, starting to talk about the you know, the potential for snow and cold later in the next week and into the latter part of this January and into February. Let's have a quick look of the European model, the upper level pattern. Now, apparently recently the data has been incorrect. The actual model has been given out wrong data. So that actually makes me think, I don't know for sure what this weekend is going to bring then, if that's the case. But I'm going to show you Europe in just a second. Asia, first of all. You can see here the cold reaching into the mid-latitudes. But if I skip through the sequence, Thursday and Thursday into Friday, and the Saturday, you notice here, folks, the trend of the cold air trying to work its way further and further south. That would suggest to me that's the work of the more negative Arctic Oscillation, trying to force this Arctic air into the mid-latitudes of Asia. Let's skip through. So you see here, this is China, Mongolia, Russia, of course. No surprise here, folks, that we're seeing brutal cold over Russia. That is, of course, normal for this time of year. Looking ahead at North America, first of all, and I'm going to skip back. And you notice here, folks, just how brutally cold Canada is. So that's why we're seeing those -30s this morning across Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Milder air, of course, you can see here the trough in the midsection of the country, ridging over towards the east. That, of course, is forcing temperatures well above freezing across, you know, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, even up into Newfoundland as well. But let's skip through the sequence here, folks, and you notice here the Friday and into Saturday as well, you've got that cold air trying to push further and further south. Temperatures tomorrow will struggle to hit 0 Fahrenheit. That's -18 Celsius in Minneapolis. Temperatures tonight well below 0 in terms of Fahrenheit. But it's an interesting pattern. You see here the dislodge of the Arctic air working south. And finally, folks, let's look at Europe. And this is a model I'm a wee bit slightly reluctant to rely on at the moment, and simply because it has totally turned around on me. Now, I continue to believe that the GFS has a tendency to push the cold and kick it out too quickly. So I always hone in on this model here, because I think the European has been known to be more reliable. Notice here the cold over Eastern Europe, that has been persistent for the past couple of weeks. But skipping through the sequence, folks, you notice here how the trough digs in to Western Europe. Northwest flow, cold, likely to bring more in the way of snow perhaps 200, 300 metres above sea level over Scotland, and that of course has been my error. I did forecast that I believed it would be colder over parts of Ireland, Northern Ireland and the UK as a whole. That looks as if that will not be the case, but you notice here, trough kicks in, same old story, region heights rise over southeastern Europe, so we're kicking out the frigid cold air that we've seen over the Ukraine, Bulgaria, Romania into Turkey over the past few days. Highs struggling to get to -10, lows well below that at night time. You notice the transfer of the cold back up into Scandinavia again, and that was of course my interest over this weekend, that we would see a trough digging into the northwest part of Europe, and that colder pieces of that cold would then drift into the UK and Ireland. But let's skip ahead into next week. You notice here the trough Arctic air over Scandinavia, producing very typical mid to late January conditions there. Monday into Tuesday, Wednesday. You notice here, folks, the trough starts to kick in, and that would make for a rather interesting latter part of the week. Notice here it's not particularly cold, but the trough here, jet stream well into Iberia, origin over the eastern part of Europe, cold over Scandinavia. There is a lot of things to look at, folks, and I'm going to try and keep you up to date as much as possible. I'm looking for accuracy when I'm forecasting. I'm not biased towards cold and snow. It's basically the pattern I believed would take place. It looks as if the latter part of January into February looks a lot more promising in terms of cold and snow for snow-starved UK and Ireland, as well as parts of Western Europe, including Denmark, the Low Countries, etc. Stay tuned. Hope you have a great evening, folks. Bye for now.